this episode right here is all fucking time. I promise you. Listen, the guest, unbelievable. Just absolutely legendary. And one of my close friends, I'm super excited to have him on. He is an unbelievable DJ, producer. I don't even know if DJ encompasses everything that I want to explain, but we're going to get into it. He has an arsenal of songs that the world has not even seen yet, hasn't listened to, and they are unbelievable. I don't even think I've heard half of them, and I've heard a ton. I am so excited to have him on. My question is not whether or not he will make it. My question is, what pair of dunks am I wearing to the concert for 100,000 people when he's headlining? Because it is going to happen inevitably. I got my man, Brant Wolff.
Thank you so much for having me, man, for real. Like, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. I mean, yeah, but I have a lot of songs, man. A ton of songs. Like, I can't even.
It's actually insane. It's actually insane.
I can't wait for you guys to hear them all. I actually just had my first song come out, so that was super cool. That kind of synced up at the same time as like this podcast, even. But had my first song come out with my good friend Chris. I mean, you guys probably know him as Cisnero more so. But anyways, that song was really, really good. I made that again. Talk about music, man. I made that thing like a year ago at this point. Like, my music. It goes back so long. We're going to get into that whole thing, whole music aspect. But just thank you for having me again. It's going to be a great conversation here, man.
Oh, I'm so excited. I've been excited for this one for a while because, like the Sam Johnson episode, I was like, right when I thought about starting the pod and getting the Reddcast going, I was like, Brant's on here automatic. Like, it's going to be cool too because I'm not as well versed in the music space. I have a good feel for music, and I have I like listening to a variety of it, but you have a way more vast knowledge of it in depth, and it's something you take super serious. It's one of your biggest passions. And yeah, so this song Dancing just released with Cisneros last week. How's it been going since that released?
I mean, it was my first time, obviously, going through something like this. So it's like, it's really weird for me just having any music out, honestly, because you know how I've been with it. Like, I just like showing it to all my friends and like everyone. If you've met me, you've probably heard a song by me, but nothing's been out yet. And every time people would talk to me about like, oh, when are you getting songs out? When are you getting songs out? And I've just always been so meticulous on how I like do things and how I make music and how I want to present myself and my brand and me as an artist. And to me, that always meant like taking my time on it. So I always wouldn't put stuff out until I knew it was right, until I had something signed, because that was like my first big hurdle for me, is like getting something signed, because it's on a record label. It's on Forgotten Records. It's a smaller label, but again, just like stepping stones and building from there. The song charted well on Beatport. Beatport is like what DJs use to like download songs and play them. So like, if you're an audiophile, we call them audiophiles. But like, if you're super obsessed with like quality of sound, when you listen to something on Spotify, it's actually like compressed, the song. So it's not at the purest wave form that it was when it had left the DAW, which is like, what you make your song on. So Beatport is giving you the purest audio file of that song. So DJs use it. Moral of the story. And it charted really well on there for house releases. I believe it cracked like top 10 even. And then bass house releases, it charted like number 6 last week. So really good stuff there. Again, it's just awkward for me because I never had music like put out. And now people can go on Spotify and like see my name and like my picture there and stuff. So I'm still like getting used to all of that a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because now from here I got to build on top of this. And I really want to start like putting out the stuff that I've been making recently, because as an artist, like your creative direction changes all the time, and just not even as an artist, just as a person, like, you change from who you are last year to this year, and it's the same thing. But that's what's also cool about music, is you can go back and like, it's essentially like a timestamp. Like now you can go and see, okay, well, I'm making this stuff now, but this is where I was at a year ago. It's cool. Yeah,
like you said, the meticulous is such a perfect like description of how you approach it. And so for anybody who doesn't know, Brant was part of the 93 Boys, RWJ squad that came in. If you haven't watched the Sam Johnson episode, we go into detail about the whole Reds golden era origin story, everything. Yes, and he was one of those staple guys.
Yes, sir.
And so throughout that year, I get to learn about, everybody and what they're doing and what they're into. I just told the story about when I gave Sam the St. John's, because he's real into style, he's into shoes. So as the year progressed, like I remember I was operating the playlist the whole year that year because, you couldn't have DJs, you couldn't have anything. And throughout the year, I got to learn that you were real into music and then into producing music and making it. And then I just like learned really how deep you are into the game of it, and your process of, coming to Reds, whatever, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, every day we're open, and then going back and just making music till like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., like nonstop. And as we talked about it more and more, I could just feel the passion. Like when you talk about it, when somebody talks about something they're super passionate about, you feel that energy. And I could tell that right off the bat. So when did you get into music? Like when did this start?
First, I just want to say one thing. Like when you talked about the whole like being on playlist here, I found that so funny because like as it progressed and you found that I was like super into music, you actually like let me. I think it was like through Bluetooth, or I would give you my phone or something.
The playlist on Spotify.
Yeah,
yeah.
I would give you a playlist on Spotify. I knew it would be jamming, and like everybody in the bar would start knowing like, oh, Brant's on aux now because like this is something that he would definitely play, and it was funny that that whole thing happened. But okay, so my music story. All right, so production, I guess for my music story, I'd have to start from like the very beginning, which basically for me would just be like how I got into music or even had the idea to get into it. So I remember like it was yesterday, really young. I used to live in Florida. So I was born here in Jersey. And then I moved to Florida. I moved to like Boca area. So I was there from my 3rd to 8th grade. So when I was there, I had an older cousin. And he kind of was, you know how it is, like, older brother, older cousin, whatever it is, like, they kind of put you on to a lot of things. And so I was kind of into music back then. Maybe, I don't know what the heck I was at this point, like however old are at fifth grade, whatever it was, 6th grade. I was into like Kid Cudi a little bit, and I would hear like Day and Night. I would hear like, Pursuit of Happiness on the radio. And I'm like, oh, this song is great. This is great. This is great. And then so one summer, my older cousin flew down to Florida. And I was in the car with him and freaking on an iPad in my dad's like old Tahoe. I had it plugged in or whatever, and I played Day and Night or something. He was like, oh, you like Cudi like that? And I was like, yeah, like I think the song is fire. And he was like, let me show you something. And then played Soundtrack to My Life. And from that point on, I went right onto YouTube later that day. I remember, and I just dug and found all this great music by him. And it was kind of like almost like, how like kids are when they like collect something. It was kind of like that for me. It was like I needed to have every song by like Cudi, and I wanted to like hear them all. And then it just went down the line for artists. And like from that point, music was such a big thing in my life, and I knew I wanted to do something with music. I just didn't know how or like what my lane really was. I thought maybe for a while I'd just work for like a record label or just do something like that. And then out of nowhere, not really out of nowhere, but like Skrillex came along. I started listening to dance music a little bit. And that was a big one. I remember back in the day in like 8th grade, my boy would be making, his name was Elijah Rudder, and he would be making dubstep. I'd be in his house, like we called like, oh, you're making wubs today? And we would be in there, you're making wubs. His mom's cooking in the kitchen, and I'm there right next to him, like watching him produce. I didn't really know shit at this point about like producing, but I was just watching him. And then like as I got older, I kind of like drifted away from that era a little bit. And it kind of hit me again when I heard this guy, his name was Mala. And he had this song, it was called like Notorious. You probably even heard this song maybe. It sampled like a Biggie song, and it like was primarily using 808s and like bass line, like stuff you would hear in hip hop essentially, but like in a dance or a house music BPM. And I heard like, hip hop, which is what I loved, over like a dance beat. And I knew like, okay, like dancing is made on a laptop. I didn't know how to play guitar. I didn't know how to play piano. So I was like, I know how to use a freaking laptop. So I was like, fuck it. Like, let's see what the hell happens. I was like, this is perfect for me because I'm hearing hip hop. I'm hearing, the drums and bass lines that I like in hip hop. Let's try to see what happens with this. So that's how basically I got the idea to like, maybe I should start producing. And then if you really want to hear like how it got crazy, honestly, when COVID happened, so I was living here at Rutgers. I was at 21 Gilden with like my old buddies I was with in Skull. And
Skull Boys.
The Skull
Let's
Boys.
go.
Yeah, Skull Boys. Forever grateful for that, man. Even though that place got kicked off, like I say, it honestly was for the better because like everybody that was there became my freaking like actual brothers. Like I know you talk about that in like fraternities, like, oh, this is my brother. Like, no, like we didn't bring anybody else new into the frat because we got kicked off. So it was like anybody that was there, like genuinely, that was it. That was all I knew.
Yeah.
Like, and it just created something different. Like it created something very different. And basically one of those kids in there, his name was Brian Mosen, my best friend, really. He's one of my best friends, man. And I remember, like, again, another thing I remember, like, yesterday is we kept telling each other, we're going to get into this music stuff. We're going to get into this music stuff. We're going to start producing. And then COVID, was just, like, around the corner, honestly. Like, it wasn't completely shutting everything down yet, but it was like we knew it was like kind of there. So everyone was kind of like, you know, like chilling back a little bit. And he was like, yo, I just bought Ableton, which is what we use to produce. So you could use like Fruity Loops, or like Corey over there saying like you could use like Logic or other programs. So we always knew dance music was primarily done by our favorite DJs on Ableton. So he's like, yeah, I just bought it. And my competitive ass spirit, I was like, oh, he just bought that? Like I'm gonna buy I'm doing this too, man. Like I'm getting this. So bought it, and then you know how it is in the beginning, like, you know, you buy it, and it's like, it's super intimidating. Like, you open it, and there's like so much stuff going on, and like, you don't know really how am I like gonna make this track. And he was like, Mosin is one of the best like musicians I've ever seen, like with a guitar, like unbelievable. Like, you know, this guy freaking play guitar with his tongue, play it like Jimi Hendrix shit, man, like crazy stuff, like super talented, like super talented kid. And he would send me, man, like, I'm telling you, in the beginning, like when I was being lazy with this shit, like he would send me like 2 to 3 tracks a week. And I'd be sitting there like, he's getting this done, man. Like, I got to do this. Like, and then how I am like with competitiveness, we'll probably get into like my golf background at some point. But like how I was like, I got to do this, man. And I just went balls to the wall with it. Like, and then you mentioned 93, like, you know, I had to essentially keep up with what this kid was doing. Like, I thought he was so good, so talented. I wanted to be that. And basically I just kept grinding at it. And, you know, living at 93, man, I was up till like 5 a.m. I'd wake up at 3 p.m., get rollover right on my laptop, 5 a.m. again, 3 p.m., come to your bar. Dude, it was crazy.
You can hear it in the way you're talking about it, like just like following the story along about when you got into it, and then just when it took off, it's like you can feel the energy. So you start at the Gildan house, I guess that's where it happens. Now, you started before COVID gets, you know, really serious, and then they cut everything off. When they cut everything off, were you staying at the house still and producing, or did you have to go back home?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so when it first happened at Rutgers, so this is like before the Reds golden era. Like this was like, you know, while we were still basically the year you were doing your dollar drink still. This was still that
the previous year.
Yeah, the previous year. Still that year. So honestly, like we were coming here for dollar drinks. Like it was just starting to get popping. Everyone was just starting to know about it.
It just was taking off.
It was just taking off. Like everyone was like, yo, we're going to Reds. Dollar drinks Friday. Like we out. So I was like, okay, man. They're like, let's do it. But anyways, I was living at 21 Gildan, which was like right near, like kind of like if Queens was like right here, like, you know, you kind of walk down that street and bust like a left. It's kind of like tucked away. Anyways, I was living at 21 Gildan, and yeah, so I didn't go home. So at that point, man, like I remember like Russo, like, you know Russo, a bunch of my boys, like we were all like literally pent up in there, man. Like literally they would be upstairs playing video games the whole day. I would be on my room. I had this little stupid beatbox speaker, and I would have that hooked up to my laptop. I would just be down there producing all day. And I like every once in a while, I would like, you know, oh, I think I got something fire here. And, you know, I thought I had something fire. I was just starting producing. It was trash, bro. It was fucking steaming hot trash.
You always look back and you're like,
steaming hot trash. But I was like, but to me, it was like, oh, I freaking got it, man. Yeah. So I would like run up the stairs, and I'd be like, yo, Russo, come downstairs. Like, you gotta listen to this. You gotta listen to this. And we go down there, and we'd be bumping, like, cause you know we knew nothing. Like we were all idiots, man. Like we're just starting making music. Like you know nothing. Like you're so naive. But like that naiveness is also a beautiful thing, cause like you make some of your most creative stuff when you're like just beginning, in my opinion, because to you it's like sounds and formula of music and all this shit. Like it doesn't matter. Like you're just making anything, like you're just making sounds, like you have no idea what you're doing. So like at one token, I think it was some of my most creative stuff formulaically, like, you know, is this, you know, what a standard house song sounds like? No, it didn't sound like that. But anyways, I was making it a lot at in that where I lived, which is in 21 Gildan. I was staying there the whole time, you know, making music like nonstop, and I would just bring my boys on there, and they would hear it. And yeah, I mean, like, you know, I knew this is what I wanted to do. Like from the very beginning, like once I started getting really into it, I was like, this is what I need to do. Like this is what I need to lock in with. So yeah. Yeah,
because it's interesting when you were telling that story, I'm like, okay, you guys get the system Ableton, and then you start producing and you're doing all this work, and then that point hits where they cut everything off and everybody's got to go home or just stay. Like you guys ended up staying. So I was just wondering, like you are on a roll, like kind of just you started it and it gets rolling, and then I'm wondering, does it get cut? But it sounds like you just keep going. Then the summer comes around. I guess you guys kind of move out, go back home, and then that was the summer that you came back and lived in 93, correct?
Yes. So if like to be like, I mean, really honest, like it started the whole really like obsessive nature of it started in 93. Not that like I wasn't obsessed with it at 21, but like all things, like I tell people, like, even with you at this podcast, it's like, chip away at it. Like, just keep banging this shit out, man. And like, eventually it's going to completely overtake your life if you're like super passionate about something. So same concept, like with it, same concept with it here. Like I was super passionate about it when I was at 21, but it didn't completely overtake my life yet. Like when I was at 93, and again, like everything was really shut down now at this point, like COVID was crazy, all this stuff. It was like, if I don't do this right now, man, do I even really love this? Like, kind of like asking yourself that question. And like, for me, if you were trying to do something creative, like with music or something, and you didn't get started during that COVID time, man, like, what were you doing? Like, because that should be like when you were going crazy with it, man. Like, you had all the time in the world. And to me, it was just like, I told myself, like, made a couple goals for myself. Like, one, before COVID and college is over, I want to be able to like make a song anytime I open my laptop. Does it have to be great? No. But like, if I get on my laptop every time, am I going to be able to make a song? And that's what I did at college. I definitely got that part of it down. And then after college, I was like, okay, well, now I need to get one signed. And I just did that. So again, like, to me though, while I was at 93, that was like the era where it was like, all right, no matter what, you have to get this stuff down, because like you're never gonna have this amount of free time like again. Yeah. So it's like this is when you have to learn it like through and through, and that's what I did. Like, and just nonstop, man. Like when I tell you, a big thing for me in music that I always like talk about when I talk about my music is like what I did with golf, and we'll probably get into that more. But like, if just briefly, I come from like a really unique sports background too, so that could be another topic. But like, we moved to Florida for my sister's tennis. Like, so she was like a really good tennis player here in Jersey and wanted to get better at tennis. So we literally picked up and moved to Florida for that reason. And when there, like, my parents put my sister around like academies of all these kids from all around the world, like training to be professionals, like really good. So I was young and like soaking all this stuff up. Like, your mind's like a sponge when you're young, man. So I was like soaking all this up, like between my sister and then seeing people who were like, #1 junior tennis players, like practice right next to her. And not only it's like, I think it was Russo recently who asked me, he was just like, so was it like cool to like see them like play and like, how their tennis strokes look stuff. I was like, that stuff was great. But like what really was mind blowing was being able, and priceless, was being able to see how these really driven and talented people like actually practiced and like did something like that. That's what was so eye-opening for me. It was like, because everyone sees this stuff on TV, like, oh, this guy looks great here, but they don't have a lick, I'm sure from baseball, a lick of an idea of like what actually went on behind the curtains before that happened. So when I was in Florida with tennis, like that's what that showed me. It was like, like you're not really, you think you're never practicing enough. Like, you might think you're practicing, or you might think you're making music or on this stuff, but there's somebody out there doing it more than you. Like, I guarantee that. So yeah, that's how I approach music.
Yeah, it's actually crazy to hear that, and then because most people, I think, would see that and it wouldn't click like that. Like, they would just be going and watching what's going on and seeing what people are doing, but it wouldn't click. Yeah, exactly, the other way.
Like, because again, like what do I do now? Like, what I do now is like my side job is like teaching golf. Like, because I played golf my whole life. I ended up playing in college before I transferred to Rutgers. Played at Fordham, all that stuff. Anyway, so I'm a golf coach. Like, I see that firsthand. Like, I go and tell people, like, okay, it's right in front of you. You're hitting this terrible shot in golf right now because you're doing X, Y, and Z. Work on X, Y, and Z, and then it's going to start to get better. And, 9 out of 10 people, even probably 9.5 out of 10 people don't do what the hell it is that I'm saying. Yeah. And it's very obvious. And it's the same thing with music. It's like, sure, like people know, okay, to get good at something, I need to sit there and practice. But to me, it's like that person's brain, what happens between people to people is their brain might not be completely like ready for it almost. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might not make sense, but some people are just not like ready to like actually dive in. They got, like my dad would say, they got one toe in the water or 1 foot in the water, 1 foot out the water.
Yeah, it's not 100%. Yeah, it's so a lot of people will, I talked about this even on the previous podcast, was a lot of people will say they want something, but until you actually are doing the actions that match getting to where you want to go, you say you want to go, it's just not going to happen. Like, you actually have to be willing to put in the work and not see any results for a while, but understand that putting in that work is going to get you to the result you want to get to. It's tough because people want the result, like what you just said. You're like, it's over time, and people only see, like, when someone's on TV and they see what's going on, they only see what they're doing right now, but they don't see all the years, all the work that they put in before that. But that's what got them to that point.
100%. And that, and then also, like, my other favorite thing is, like, a lot of the times too, like, like, I don't really know the exact, but we could just use, for instance, like, I don't know, Kawhi Leonard, for example, in basketball. Like, I know he was somebody who wasn't a highly touted recruit in basketball his whole life. So somebody like him, he still was playing basketball and still doing all this stuff. He was probably getting his ass beat by people that were better than him, quote unquote, in juniors, like, the whole time, getting his ass beat. And that's a big thing too, like, which is why, like, whenever I bring up music, I have to bring up Mosin, because again, it's like the same thing like golf, and the same thing like it is for music, and the same thing it was for my sister's tennis, is like, you need to be around like-minded people who are really pushing you and, like, essentially even beating your ass to have you, like, elevate yourself almost. You have to be around that type of people. And then what that would teach you is, okay, if you really like it, because when you do get your ass beat by someone that's better than you, you're going to know right away, do I really want to get up after this, or do I want to stay down? A lot of people want to stay down, but you got to get up if you really love it, man.
Yeah, once you start eating shit, that's when you find out. You're like, all right, can I continue to show up, and is this what I remember just branching off that, like, I remember during that COVID year, like, I really wanted Reds to succeed, and we really didn't know what to expect going into that year. But once it took off and it was rolling, and I had to deal with figuring out who I could let in, limiting the amount of people, but still letting in who was coming all year, and it just developed over time. It got busy. I was just eating shit every day, and I was like, this is terrible. I was like, this is horrible, but I was also enjoying it so much. Like, it was such a weird paradox, because it was like the greatest time, and then also, like, managing it though and, like, running it was, like, so tough for me, and I was just eating shit every day. And it was only because people, outside forces, were the ones that were trying to keep me from doing it the way I wanted to do it. Obviously what was going on, everybody knows, but then it was just what I wanted, so I kept showing up every day, and then eventually it cleared, and it got to the point, and now it's like all the relationships I formed out of that, like, here we are now on the podcast, like, talking, like, one of my closest friends. And it's insane to think that you wouldn't see that in the moment. It just develops over time, and then one day it's there.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole beauty, or I mean, the beauty and the scariness of, like, doing things like what you just described, or music or sports, is like, it's such a gray freaking area. Like, you have no idea, like, where it's going to go or where it's going to lead. But if you just work on it, like, nonstop, I tell people all the time, like, with golf or just with me and myself, someone will be like, oh, I had a fucking shitty practice session, man. Like, I was hitting terrible shots here, terrible shots there. I was like, all right, well, how long was that practice session? And they're like, oh, I was there for like 3 hours. It was terrible. I was like, we still put 3 hours into it. So, like, when you go to bed at night, tell yourself, you put 3 hours into whatever it is that you were trying to get better at. Yep. And that means something 100%. So it's the same thing like that with music, man. Like, I tell myself, like, there's days where I'm sitting on my laptop and I'm like, God damn, I suck. Like, I can't figure anything out. I'm literally sitting there like, bro, like, I'm not him. I'm not him. I'm like, this is not it. But then, like, again, like, I was telling Corey here about this artist recently, and he had really a thing that I really liked that he said. His name is, like, Fred again. He's making some really good stuff now that everyone loves his stuff right now. And he said, like, music or any type of skill you're doing is a muscle that needs to constantly be trained. And, you love working out. I know you love working out, man. You're a demon with that. Like, if you freaking miss 2 days out of the week or a day out of the week or that you weren't supposed to miss, like, you feel off or, like, off mentally or just off about yourself. And it's the same thing, like, with music. So even if I have that day where I'm trash and I couldn't write a song that I thought was good, and I fiddled around with 30 different bass lines in this song, fucking 50 different drums trying to figure this thing out, and I couldn't get it done, I still have to tell myself when I go to bed, like, all right, I messed around with this bass line 30 different ways. So even though none of those 30 ways worked, I figured out 30 ways that didn't work, or sounds that didn't work, or 30 drums that didn't work. So that's how I look at things, and just kind of cool thinking about it.
No, it's 100%. That's how it goes. It's funny you say that, because you just reminded me of a story, like, out in Hawaii. Like, I was there this summer. You saw, we talked about it a lot.
That was beautiful.
Unbelievable. Man. And we were out there with Terrence, our good friend that I've mentioned before on the podcast. And we end up, so Terrence is super into music.
Yeah.
And he's the one that I tell you about. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing, like just before I get into this particular story about Hawaii, his ability to just sit down and work on his craft without seeing any results or having anyone else see the results is unbelievable. And it's the exact same as you, like your ability to just go in and work and grind and know whether it sounds good or not is just unbelievable, because he'll sit there and he'll work 12 hours a day for no one but himself. And no one sees that because he's just sitting in his apartment and grinding. And it sometimes it does mess with you because you're like, damn, like no one knows what I'm actually putting in.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, like everybody I talk to from home or wherever, I tell them exactly what's going on. And I'm like, yo, they're like, what is he doing out there? I'm like, yo, he's working 14, 15, 16 hours a day, just grinding, like figuring out his craft and trying to perfect it to get it to the sound of where he thinks it's actually like plausible to put out.
Yeah.
And so when we went out there, we started making this album. He's into all different types of music.
Yeah, for sure.
And he has got a particular type of style. But our buddy Will was out there too, who, shout out, helped us out with these lights here. All he kept saying was, "You need lighting." Yeah, unbelievable, unbelievable. Shout out to Will.
This is sick.
Shout out to Will. He's the guy. So one of my best friends as well. And we were all out there together, and so we started making this album. The whole point of going out there was to make a movie for Terrence, to show what he was doing, because he wanted people to see. So Will goes out there and kind of captures it with his videography skills, and he's very talented at that. And so we end up starting making this album because Will's also very into music. And I remember I'm hopping on a song, and I remember listening to the beat, and it was just that I was like, man, it's missing something. Like it's not right there. And then we would listen to the beat, and I'm like, nah, this is trash. I'm like, this is done. Like we thought we hit it. The next day we go back and we listen. We're like, no, this is trash. Like it needs this, it needs that. And Will is the exact same way, and so is Terrence. So we have three of these minds that are listening and like, this is terrible. Or one of them's like, no, that could work. And then you're going back and forth. But then after all the ideas like get put into the song, and you finally hit that moment where it connects, it's like boom. It's like, yo, that's it right there. And it's unbelievable, that like feeling, that. Yeah, that feeling.
You feel like God in that moment.
Where the day before, you just said it, you're like the day before, I'm like, dude, I'm not him. Like, this is trash. I can't believe I even tried this. But then the next day, that same song or that same thing you were working on comes around and clicks, and it's like that feeling is unbelievable.
No, it's unmatched. Like, again, like I'm so... You know, there's where I was getting into like, I tried 30 different bass lines. So there's a lot of times where, I did try 30 different bass lines and I went to bed with nothing. But there's also times where I went through those 30, 40 different bass lines and then I did find one that I loved. And it's like, holy fuck. Like, you know, you feel like, okay, this is great. Like to the point where now I got to listen to this song on loop so many times that I end up not liking it again. It's an endless cycle. But like, again, that's the mind of a creative. Like, but nothing is, so like to your boy's point, like, at some point, I'm kind of getting to that moment now with myself where, like, I'm confident enough in what I do and, like, what I make where I know, like, this stuff needs to be heard now. Like now I know it needs to be heard because it's almost rude. It would almost be rude of me not to have other people, like, hear this stuff eventually because, like, I spent so much time on this and I know it's good. Like, I trust my ears at this point. Some people have to hear this eventually and because people do like it. Like I show it to all my friends, and a lot of times they're playing this stuff more than they're playing other artists that they love. And so at that point, it's like, you know, the world does need to eventually hear some stuff, but it's such a hard battle as like an artist, like figuring out like when the time's right, or because it's never going to be as good as, you know, to me as it is to you almost. At the same time, like I was watching the podcast you had here with Sam, and he was talking about a little bit with his shoes, like if he had like one dot on it, like he didn't like the shoe or something like that.
On the customs.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. Like for me with music, like you're never gonna hear it, but like, and it might not even sound bad, but I'll know like, okay, it's like a song that I'm making. Let's say I was trying to have this build up, have this perfect little suction come in and like drop right into the bass line. I know I was trying to do that. Let's just say this is like what I was trying to do. And even though what the final product is and what I showed you guys sounds good, I know I tried to do something with the song and couldn't get it done. So now I'm listening to the song as well. Like, fuck, like this isn't what I wanted it to be completely. Does it mean it's bad? Does it mean it doesn't work? No, it still works completely good. Like anybody can hear it and think it sounds good. But me, the artist, tried to do something with it and I didn't have either the ability or the time or the knowledge to do whatever it is that I wanted to do, or it just didn't work out. And now I look down on that piece of art anyways. So like, you know, it's an ongoing battle. So what I'm trying to get at is I'm even fucking pointing fingers at something that doesn't even exist in the song. Like, it's not even a flaw that exists in the song. It's something that I couldn't even get done in the song, and now it's bothering me about the song.
Yeah.
So it's so weird. What I'm saying is, guys, is like, you're never as an artist going to, like, I think, love all of your work, and maybe you'll love a couple pieces. Like Chris Lake, he's another one of my biggest influencers. Like, he said, I watch all of his stuff all the time. He's like, man, I make thousands of songs, and I let you guys hear a couple that I think are mediocre. That's what he said. I let you hear a couple that I think are mediocre.
It's unbelievable.
Because the rest of them,
talk about him, that's unbelievable.
Because like that's how it is, though, man. It's like, even the one that I just put out, like Dancing, like there was something I was trying to do on that song that I wanted to be even nicer. Does it mean that it doesn't work? No, the song slaps. It's
that
beautiful.
Song is a banger,
it's a banger,
dog.
of course. But I'm still saying even something that you think is a banger or that other people think is a banger, I was trying to do something with it that didn't work out in my mind. And does it mean that it's an error in the song? No, it just means I was trying to do something with it, and I will always remember what I was trying to do on that song. I'll always remember what I was trying to do on a song I made yesterday or a song I made 2 years ago. I'll hear it. It's just how it is as an artist.
You never miss it going forward. And then it's exactly what you said. As you keep going, you learn these things and you learn how to put exactly what you want to put into it, but you're never going to have it where it's right down to the T. It's never be perfect.
If it was perfect, man, I don't know if I would be sane in life. I just don't know if I would be sane in life because, like, for me, like, the chase of perfection,
the journey,
is what makes me love it. Like, it's my video game, man. Like, what good is a video game that you beat?
It's over.
It's over. Fuck that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the video game's beat. Like, so everyone gets these. I remember as a kid, like, you get a story mode or a campaign game, you beat it, you never play a thing again. You want to freaking give it to GameStop for $1. Like,
you're done. You're like, all right, on to the next.
So the music, man, like Skrillex, Chris Lake, anyone will tell you, like, it's the process of something, like, of the endless possibilities of what could be made and you getting better as an artist. Yeah, man. So, like, the best artists, in my opinion, are just people that continuously put out stuff that are better, like in dance music at least, like stuff that's as good or better than what they used to make. And what that means is that, like, that they're nonstop working at it. Like, and then so the stuff that they're making now is better than what it was even when they were doing it 10 years ago. Because that's how it should be as an artist that truly cares about something. Like, for me, sure, with rap music, it's a little different, like nostalgia factor. Oh, I have this memory to this Kid Cudi song, so it's never going to, like, I have this debate with my friends all the time about Cudi because we all grew up on him, love him.
Cudi is goated.
Goated. To me, the best musician, best artist, he's my favorite. Like, again, if I fucking worked with him, I could die the next day and I would be completely happy with my life. But again, like what I was trying to get at is, so, like, his older albums, everyone loves, like, Man on the Moon 1, Man on the Moon 2. Like, those are the vintage Cudi ones. Yeah, like, they're really good, but, like, musically, production-wise, clarity, idea-wise, like, some of the new stuff he's making now is honestly, like, musically just as good or better than what he was doing there. But again, like, the nostalgia factor will have you thinking the old stuff is just as good. But, like, me, like, I hear, like, the drums he's using on this new album. Like, just put out this Intergalactic album. Really, really fire stuff on there. And I, like, hear the drums. I'm like, these drums are so crisp, man. Like Cudi couldn't have done this 10, 12 years ago. He didn't have the facilities. He wasn't big enough. Like, same thing, like, Travis Scott's another one. Everyone will be like, oh, like, Astroworld wasn't as good as Days Before Rodeo or Rodeo was. And I'll be like, if you sat down with Travis, he would tell you that Astroworld was the project he dreamed of making, like, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have the facilities to pull that thing off. So, again, like, the best artists are always evolving. They're always evolving, man. They're always evolving.
No, you always have to, and variety. And I remember, so you're talking Cudi. I was a big Wiz Khalifa guy back with huge, like, kind of almost same era, like, around that mark.
Hell yeah.
And actually, I wasn't even a fan of Cudi for a while until I actually, and this is the same for many things. You don't really, like, truly appreciate things until you get a little bit older and can look back.
That's another topic.
Yeah, and so, like, as I got older and I listened to more things, and then I just started to like, you look at things kind of closed-minded when you're younger. You don't really see all the different points of view, but as you get older and you start to see different points of view from everybody, it helps you, and it gives you variety in all aspects of life. And music was one of those things for me, and I realized how good Cudi is. And, well, again, going back to Hawaii, Man on the Moon 3 dropped when I was in Hawaii last winter during the Reds COVID era.
Cudi fan, that's one of his best works, but keep going.
Unbelievable album. And so, and I had liked Cudi, again, I came to liking Cudi before that, but Will is a massive Kid Cudi guy. Like, he's the same as you. Like, that was his guy. That was his guy.
Yeah, that's my guy,
and
man.
so Man on the Moon 3 drops, and we just, oh man, like, we dropped, and every single day we would leave the Airbnb we were at to go pick up Terrence, and it was just like clockwork. Wake up, Folgers, shower, get ready for the day, go into the car, leave the Airbnb complex, and press play on the album, like, every day. And it was just unbelievable. But it really is that, like. And so these artists, going back to the Wiz Khalifa thing, I remember him talking because he went huge mainstream, like, big time. He obviously, everybody knows Cushion OJ was when he kind of hit and he started going. He was making so many good songs before that.
I have mixed opinions on that, but keep going.
So he was making good tracks before that. And if you listen to, like, Prince of the City 2, and, like, those other, like, mixtapes that he made early on in his career, totally different style. And then he releases Say Yeah with a mainstream label, and they were trying to push that kind of style for him, and he's like, no, I don't want that style. Like, that's not me. He kind of felt like he wanted to go in a different direction, changes his whole direction, continues to make variety of music, and follows that. And then Cushion OJ hits, he kind of blows, and then it just takes off from there. But as he continues to get bigger and bigger and hits the mainstream level, he starts switching up the sound like crazy. And people were like, wait a second, this isn't the Wiz that we're used to, that we know. But if you listen to his whole career, you see how much he made variety. And he talks about it in interviews all the time. He's like, I can't just make the same music that got me to where I'm at today. He's like, once, I may be this big now, but what got me to this point is trying all that variety and trying different things. And so if I just stay where I'm at now because I made it, I'm not going to continue to grow.
I agree with, like, tenfold. Like, I agree tenfold on all that stuff. Like, again, for me, what you were getting at, like, with Wiz there is, like, the same thing that what I was getting at with Cudi too. It's like people want everyone to be like, oh, this wasn't the Cudi that we heard 10 years ago. This wasn't the Wiz we heard 10 years ago. Well, that guy wasn't the same person as I started off talking here. Like, you're not the same person you were a year ago. Like, does that mean that what you're making now is bad? Absolutely not. Like honestly, I haven't listened to enough of Wiz's, like, newest stuff, but I'm sure, like, the productions on it, and, like, for instance, just even, like, my ears, like, my mature ears with all my music, like, I'll just listen to, like, for example, do I listen to somebody like Harry Styles all the time? No, but, like, when I'm freaking high as fuck and I throw my headphones on and I listen to a Harry Styles song, so I'm like, yo, like, the reverb on his voice, even it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Like, because again, he has so much ability now with all the people he's working with. The best producers in the world are working on Harry Styles and The Weeknd's album. Shout out to The Weeknd, literally wearing his hat now, one of my favorite artists again.
Unbelievable.
Again, like, they're working with the best people in the world. So again, and how do they get there? By making good stuff in the beginning, and then they slowly evolve. So same thing like with Wiz. Like, does that mean his new stuff now is, like, trash? Like, probably not, man. It's just not what you wanted him to make anymore. Yeah. But again, like, he's such a big artist now. Like, he's working with such good producers. The quality of the stuff he's putting out is still there. Like musically, is it what he used to do? No, but again, that's just how it is. And that's the other battle, or the other cool thing too, that I go through as, like, an artist, is, like, people do want to see, like, the stuff that you were making a year ago, because maybe I don't resonate with that as stuff, or 5 years ago. Like, I don't resonate with that stuff as much, but somebody in the world might. So it's the same thing. Like, I made Dancing, like, a year ago with Chris. Is it similar to what I'm making now? Like, no, but people still love it. Does that mean it's bad? Absolutely not. Like, that's how I was making music, like, at the time. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? And you can use that as, like, a timestamp kind of on your life as, like, an artist. So it's like, oh, this was the Cushion OJ era of Wiz. This was the Man on the Moon era of Wiz. Like, and people love that. And then there's people who, I just saw Cudi recently. Like, I was at a diner afterwards with JP. Shout out JP again, one of my best friends all day. Again, I was at a diner with him after seeing Cudi, and there was somebody coming there with, like, a Cudi shirt from the concert that we just saw. And we, like, asked him, here's us thinking, he's some OG, like, diehard fan, this kid, and he's gonna be like, oh, Soundtrack to My Life, or like, you know, Solo Dolo is my favorite song. We asked him what his favorite song was by Cudi. And, you know, here I am expecting him to, you know, hit me with that like Solo Dolo, Mr. Rager, like something throwback. And he goes, something from Man on the Moon 3. He's like, oh, actually, I think She Knows This is my favorite song from Man on the Moon 3. And
that's a great song.
That's a great song. And not one of my favorites personally on Man on the Moon 3. Something like that like really hit me a lot, like musically, when he said that, because I was not expecting that at all. Like, I'm not at all. That, to me, one of the weaker songs on Man, it's still a great song, but it's like one of the weaker songs for me on Man on the Moon 3.
Yeah, on that album.
Yeah, on that album. So like I'm saying, like what I'm saying is I would have not expected that. But that's the crazy thing about music, is this kid said that was the favorite song that Cudi had played that night, and that was one of his newest songs. And again, like, does that mean his opinion's wrong or my opinion wrong? No, it's music, man. It's music. It's music. Like, and again, that just really clicked for me right there. I was like, this kid loves this new song that, you know, like, you know, basically if you went to go see Wiz, like someone's going to want to say, I would be expecting someone to say The Race, because like that's when I started listening to Wiz or something like that.
That is goated, that song. That song is and that, it's so crazy you say that, because Terrence and I resonate with that song so heavily. Like that's when we talk about Wiz, like we talk about that. That whole album, like Rolling Papers, and he releases The Race, like the journey of going to there and then him like landing and hearing that song in particular, I was like, this is it.
Yeah, so again, like The Race, that's a beautiful song. Like that's what I would expect like a Wiz fan to almost say, because like I know that's his best song.
Yeah.
That's one of his best songs. I would expect him to say that. But again, what am I being right there? I'm just being opinionated as fuck. Like I'm just saying that I think that's the best song. Is that actually his best song? I don't freaking know. Like it's up to you to decide too.
Yeah, it's different for everybody. And it's crazy you say that, because again, like going back to Cudi, I never really appreciated his music. And of course I didn't really know who he was as a person either, and like what he's been through and like his life story. But as I get older and I find out more about that, and then I listen to the songs, I'm like, wow, it's resonating way more with me now.
Different with
and so with him. Like he had released songs before that I had liked, but obviously before Man on the Moon 3, and but I remember going to his concert back in high school, like around that era, and I was like, I only really liked like one or two like Kid Cudi songs, and I wasn't that heavy into him, but I had heard a lot of that style, because I was good friends with Will back in high school as well, and he was always playing it. But I was more into Wiz Khalifa, Lil Wayne back then, like all that stuff. And so we go to the concert, and I was like, all right, I'm here for a couple songs I want to hear. We go in, and him as a performer,
nuts, man.
He crushed the entire set, and I was in disbelief. I was like, yo. I left that concert in a completely different mind state of like Kid Cudi and understanding. I was like, Kid Cudi, after that I was like goated. And I started listening to more and more tracks and kind of feeling out and listening to them like more, like actually listening to them and hearing what he had to say. And I was like, damn, he really is that good.
So funny you mentioned this, because like before you came in the room here, and I was like just talking with Corey about all this stuff, because you talked about how like seeing Cudi live and like seeing how he performed like blew you away, because he was like balls to the wall and he was like all into it. It's the same thing, man. Like again, like so Cudi's big on saying the music that he made was really weird. So like on the Man on the Moon, the actual song, he talks about like I never gave a fuck. Like I never gave a fuck about what people used to think about me. Or he used to talk about how he sent a song out to someone and they would be like, like why your shit sounds so different? Like I want to know, like that's a bad thing. And he'd be like, why not? And then so basically like what that meant to me is like, okay, so he just sent out a tweet recently saying, if you have an idea or a creative idea, like you have to fall into it and be completely all about it. So again, he was making this weird music that wasn't, status quo for what hip hop was. But if you see him and you see how much he buys into that weird idea, you start buying into it too, almost. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And it's that whole concept where it's like, at some point you as a creative need to know, like, I trust my ears. I know what I'm making is good. And if I'm going to proceed with it as being good, like I need to have the confidence and the energy behind what it is that I'm making, because it meant that much to me. And that's what it is about him. Like, and it comes so easy when you actually like meant what you made, like from the heart. Like, you weren't trying to copy someone and you weren't trying to mimic a sound that was popping right now. You just did whatever it was that sounded like super good to you. And then you're going to really buy into it more. And like, that's what he does. And again, like seeing him live, like something that's always so incredible to me about him, because I've seen a whole bunch of rappers live. Like you go see Drake. I don't know if you've ever seen Drake. Like, dude will have like fucking 80 songs on a set list and run through each of them like 30 seconds, get the crowd singing a little bit, yada, yada, and then, see ya, sayonara, and go home. Whereas like Cudi, you're going to go see Cudi, he's going to play the whole entire song. Intro, outro, verse 1, verse 2, everything.
Yeah.
You get used to it. You're going to hear the whole song. Why? Because that whole song means something to him. So when he plays that, like, to him in his eyes, it's like he's got to play the whole damn thing. And that weird music, and him playing the whole damn thing and showing him that he means it and performing his heart out, you start vibing to that weird music more. And before you know it, like, that weird music now becomes the status quo and like the norm. Like I remember even he just played Rolling Loud, and there was this whole incident where everybody was freaking like roasting him and like throwing a water bottle at him because they wanted Kanye to play or some shit like that. And I remember going on Twitter and like looking at the tweets, and someone's like, how could Cudi gonna play Rolling Loud? He only has Pursuit of Happiness and Day and Night. I'm like, you fucking idiot. I'm like, if you're
fucking moron.
Yeah, I'm like, if you're watching or going to see Kid Cudi for his hits, you're an idiot. Like, that's not what he's making the music for in the first place. If you thought he was even making Day and Night or Pursuit of Happiness to be a #1 hit, you're wrong. The song was just good, and it became what was a #1 hit. But like, it's not like Drake sitting down there. Like, Drake has a whole freaking formula down of how he's gonna make a #1 hit. Yeah. I like Drake's stuff too, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
But like that dude's got it. Like, he goes into the studio with the label with a gun at his head saying, make a freaking #1 hit right now. Like, Cudi's not doing that. So, if you're going for that reason to go see Kid Cudi, you're already off on the wrong foot, and he probably wouldn't even want you as his fan.
Yeah, there's no better feeling than when you stay true to yourself. And this is, I think, in any aspect of life. Like, it's not just as a creative or music or anything. Like, even just with Reds, it holds true. Like, the way I run this place and the way I hold myself accountable to be to people and treat them, there's no better feeling than when all the work you're putting in, doing it the way you want to do it the entire time, learning along the way, because that's what's going to happen. You, like we said, you start out, it might not be exactly what you wanted when you look back at it, but when you first started, you were putting everything into it and you were doing it how you wanted. Over time, you're only going to get better. Only time it's going to continue to grow. And then when you finally hit and it finally works out and you did it the exact way that you wanted to do it and had nobody else's influence on the way you did it, there's no better fucking feeling in the world than when you fucking succeed and it hits. Like, that's it. And it doesn't even need to be a form of success where you make a #1 hit like that, but it could be the form of success where you finish it and you're like, holy shit, this is it. Yeah. Going back to that feeling before. But here's the thing, is almost inevitably every time it will be that success where it's everyone seeing it and everyone experiencing it. It will be that. And then when that hits and you've done it the way that you wanted to do it the entire fucking time without anybody else giving you their, well, obviously you're going to take perspective from everybody in here, whatever.
It's impossible
but it's impossible not. But when you stick true to what you believe and it ends up coming around and you hit that point of success where you're like, yeah, this is it, there's no better feeling in the world.
There's none, man. There's none. Like, I go through that all the time, like with my own music too, man, just thinking about like, okay, this song here, like I sent it out to some DJ and he said, oh, you could do this, this, and that with it. And I'm at the point now, man, where it's like, if you want to say something to me about how, oh, your hat is too loud here or something. Oh, maybe I'll buy that. Maybe I'll buy that. This guy's been doing this for 15 years. Like, maybe he knows my hat's a little loud or something like that. But if you want to start talking about like my idea process behind it, it's like I'm so set in stone and like knowing like what I'm making is like pretty good now, where if you're going to like critique my idea or something like that, I'll tell you kick rocks, man. Like, yeah. And that's the same thing that like Cudi did with his new Netflix show. Like, it's called like Intergalactic. He had that up there. It was really, really good. And he had this moment. So basically he has this in the show, he has this idea where he like makes Mr. Rager turn into like a comic book, and he gets signed by like this comic book store, all this stuff, and the comic book store says, oh, Mr. Rager's too dark for this, like we want to try lightening this shit up, and he's basically like, absolutely not. And again, super basic fucking story there, but again, that stuck with me too. I was like, you do it, yeah, like who is someone else to like critique the way that I envisioned this? Like, just because you would have done something differently What does that mean? My way was wrong? Like, is that's what everyone says? Like, you know, like in the beginning, you're sending tracks out to people, and they'll tell you, oh, you should do this here because, you know, I would have done this here. Well, I didn't do that there, and I think this sounds good how it sounds.
Yeah, because I'm not you.
I'm not you, man.
I'm not you. I'm
not
me.
you. I'm my own fucking artist. Like, I'm my own artist, and like, if this shit bangs to me, it bangs. And again, and when I go and play this here, or when I go and play this to EDC one day, or wherever the hell I am, hopefully Brooklyn Mirage, that's my freaking church, man.
Yo, that's
my church.
That is the one where I'm deciding what pair of dunks I'm wearing, dog. I swear, dog.
I already said it, like, dude, once I play Brooklyn Mirage, I'm getting that logo tatted on me. Like,
it's unbelievable.
That's my church.
It's unbelievable.
But anyways, man, like, you know, that's just how it is. Like, with music, you can't let people influence your creative decision. Once you know yourself as an artist, and once you get past that foundational point of like, okay, my kick and my bass, they sound good together, or oh, this, you know, all my leads and all my melodies, they're all in key, because that stuff is super foundational. Like, you know, you don't want something that's out of key, then it's super obvious. Once you get that stuff down, man, like then that's your idea. Then the foundations and the structure, the musical structure, once you have that, all those, you know, T's and I's dotted, then it's just your idea. Like, then, like, everybody else, like, unless someone tells me, like, oh, my thing was out of key here, which it's not. But I mean, if someone told me something was, out of key,
which it's not.
Or it's just not. But if someone ever said that, I would be like, oh, okay, yeah, like, I feel that. But if someone tells me, oh, I would have added this synth here, no, because this is how I saw it. Like, this is how I saw the song. And it takes a while to get to that point, man. Like, and I'm just getting to that now. And again, another thing, too, that I battled for so long was, like sampling and, like, always worrying about, before I make the song, like, could this get signed by a record label if I made this with, for instance, I just sent you this new one that I made with Most, and that was really good with, like, sampled like a Frank Ocean.
Unbelievable song.
Unbelievable
song.
Guys, that one is going to come out. Me and him are working on an EP of, like, our favorite artists and our favorite songs, and trying to, like, throw our own spins on them. I wouldn't even call them, like, remixes or edits. Like, because you heard the song, like, it's its own song. Like, it's not at all attached or on the same vibe or stratosphere to what the Frank Ocean song was that it sampled. But, like, it's its own song. So, like, that's what we're trying to do. So, like, again, I chose a Cuddy one. We both chose a Frank one. So I told him, like, oh, the next one, like, you know, because we're still making it now. But I was like, you know, you choose the next one, like, your favorite artist. So we basically want to use our favorite artists and do something like that. But anyways, in the beginning, like, when I was making music, I would always think, like, I'm not even going to bother, you know, sampling, like, Frank Ocean, or bother sampling, you know, somebody, because it's never going to get released. Well, now I'm, like, kind of, my eyes are opening to everything and saying, like, okay, you could just send this song out that samples Frank Ocean to a DJ, and it might be so good that they just play it, and then you get the recognition for it, and then out of nowhere you get the facilities to have a vocalist come on your song and, like, sing the actual vocal. Or, you know, the same thing, like, you know, TikTok is so big. So, like, our idea with what we have going with that song is, you know, we're going to have it blow up through TikTok. So, you know, a bunch of girls and people we're going to, like, reach out to, like, make, like, montage videos for it, or whatever.
For sure.
Or whatever it is, and have it blow up through like that, because that's another way to kind of get your song out there, and it doesn't need to be signed to a record label. Like, I know these guys disco lines. Someone watching this probably knows who disco lines are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they blew up through TikTok, and then that's how they did it. They sampled a Childish Gambino song that Logic had already sampled prior, and because I grew up on Logic.
Shout out to Logic. Absolutely.
Logic, man, I hate when people hate on him.
Bro,
that is a fucking artist.
I'm telling you right now, Logic is ill. I'm telling you right now,
that's an artist through and through. Listen, do I think some of his stuff, like, fell off compared to some of his other ones? Yes. But, man, what he was making at a point was fucking fire. And,
unbelievable.
And it's fire stuff. But anyways, he sampled that song too. So the song had already been sampled by a major artist, and it was sampling a major artist, and it still blew up today. So, you know, don't worry about, like, I used to battle that all the time, but, like, don't worry about, like, when you're making music, don't let there be any fucking wall or any boundary at all on what it is that you're doing. Like, don't think going into it, I'm not saying, I don't know if I would do this, but don't sample the Beatles, because, you know, you can't touch anything done by the Beatles. but if you want to sample the Beatles,
fucking sample the Beatles, dog.
Do it. Well, I think you're crazy because you're never gonna top the original. Yes, but yeah, man, like, don't have a boundary.
Damn, dude, this conversation has been absolutely electric right now, dude. Unbelievable. You
get me going on some music stuff, man.
Dude, it's I knew, and I was like, man, like, I knew diving into the music was going to be, like, the key of just unleashing what all the and the things we're saying. Again, I want to point this out is that we're talking heavily about music, and I've related it to Reds as well. These things aren't just about music. This isn't anything you're doing. Anything that you want to accomplish, it's all about having your vision and following that. And then, of course, you're going to learn along the way, and it's going to continue to get better. And you may look back and be like, okay, back then I didn't know. But what's going to get you to that point is having the confidence in yourself to continue just doing it the way that you want to do it and the way you see your vision going. Because all these outside, and again, people outside influences are, it's always good to take perspective from other people and see this, but their life experience is different, and how they view things is coming from what they have had, what they have experienced already. So it's not what you have gone through. So you can't let people who are saying this is trash, this is bad, or you should do this, you should do that. That's fine. They could say that. It's never going to stop. People are always going to say 100%. Those things. They're always going to give their advice, their 2 cents, think they know what the fuck is good. I've never been wrong in my fucking life, and everybody's trying to tell me what the fuck to do. So what the fuck am I going to start listening to everybody when I've been doing it the way I want to do it this whole fucking time? I'm not. You got to have that confidence and keep going. And of course, it's not always going to work out the way you want it to work out. No. But eventually, down the line, if you continue to stay true to yourself, you're always getting the best result that you could possibly get because it's true to who you are.
What we talk about feedback, first of all, I mean, everything you said there is facts, but you're talking about feedback, like, and I bring it back to something I said earlier, even that you do need that one moment or couple moments of clarity, though, of sending something out to somebody and then fucking beating your ass, telling you that shit was ass. Yeah. You do need that moment.
100%.
Yeah, you do 100%. Need that. You do need that moment. Like, you do need that moment of clarity of, you know, Mike Tyson, everyone's got plans to get knocked out or you get one in the mouth. Like, same thing. Like, you do need that moment of clarity, but then afterwards, you know, after you get a couple of those and you get back up, you can start figuring you can start like figuring that stuff out like on your own, like whether the people who are giving you the feedback or not
and that's the thing too, the whole Mike Tyson thing is like everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. But listen, it doesn't matter. Even when you do make it and you're that big and you've had the success, you're still gonna get knocked the fuck out. And you have to be able to get back up and keep going. Even when you've done everything right and you believe that it's right and you made it and it's successful and it worked out and you've proven yourself right, so somewhere along the line, you're going to get punched in the fucking face, eat shit, and then have to come back and continue doing it. So it's a never-ending process. So I'm not saying don't just leave out everything everybody says and all this. It's never going to stop. You're going to hear that. Take what you will, use it to your advantage, and keep going because, again, you will get knocked the fuck down. You just got to keep getting back up.
Another interesting tidbit here, like that I was just thinking about too, because you were talking about like, you know, giving advice and basically doing it your way and telling people shut the fuck up if not. So a big thing that I was thinking about like recently, you know, like what is, because, you know, music and all this stuff, like it all revolves around groove and like how your head kind of like nods, and groove is a feeling. It's something that can't really be taught. It's kind of like a feeling essentially, but there's like formulas to it or whatnot. But anyways, so what is groove, dude? Like who is to say what the groove is on something? So I like saying about people saying like go fuck off. Essentially, people that are really big rappers right now, like I don't know if you heard of like G Herbo or like T Grizzly, any of these names.
T Grizzly, yeah.
Yeah, T Grizzly is like, you know, he made this whole like Detroit style of rap. That's literally founded on rapping off beat. Like that's literally like what they're doing. They're rapping off beat. And you go on the comments on YouTube and some people are literally ripping T Grizzly apart. Like this shit is trash. This shit is so off beat. Fuck you. And then there's some people that are in the comments like this is the best thing I ever heard. And like to be honest with you, when T Grizzly was probably making that song, he had no idea he was rapping off beat. Cause like in the beginning when I was making songs, like you don't hear like stuff that you hear as your ears start getting more mature, but that's that naiveness that I was like talking about in the beginning. Like he probably just ran with it. He's like, you know, I sound fire on this. The beat sounds fire. What I'm saying's fire. This works. And then there you go, it works. But like some people are, what I'm saying is this guy's freaking how many million followers, how much money he got, all this stuff. And there's still people hating, talking about your shit is trash, your shit is this, your shit is that. So stop worrying about it, man. And there is in some cases there is no formula at all, like is what I'm trying to get at. Like this guy basically made his own freaking groove and made it infectious. And it goes on to another topic of you even talking about with Cuddy, like music grows on a lot of people. So many times I'm like trying to show somebody a song of mine and I'm like waiting for them to get their freaking pants blown off just off the first listen.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen half the time. Like half the time, like, for instance, like Kendrick just dropped the album this year. I didn't think it was that great. Like I didn't think it was that great. And everyone's telling me, yo, like keep listening to it. It's going to grow on you. It's going to grow on you. Like, yeah, sure. It might grow on me because if I listen to something a million freaking times, it's going to start working. And like, that's what's happening with TikTok today is that you go on TikTok and everyone's using the same freaking song sample or the same thing like over their video, and then before you know it, it's in your head, and then everyone's listening to it anyway. Song could have been mediocre as fuck, but like you heard it a million times, and now it's banging to you. Like that's how shit works nowadays, man. It's crazy. Like that Steve Lacy song, "Bad Habits." I think that thing was trash. It's been number one for like forever. And again, like, freaking that thing's all over TikTok, and that shit gets in your head. Like people are just listening to that all the time. So yeah, just listen to yourself, man.
It's interesting because just to circle a few points there, you talk about all those people who were commenting on T Grizzly's stuff and like hating and stuff like that. But you also got to realize as you get older in life, I've learned this, you have all these different experiences. That person also, I remember being at a point in my life where I might have said something like that, and now I'm at a point where I wouldn't. And so I try to put myself in that person's shoes or put myself looking through their perspective. Yeah. And because at one point I was there, I'm like, okay, just because they're saying that now, this is huge because again, there's a lot of hate on the internet and all this stuff and in life in general, but people are influenced by different factors. Sometimes it's just social status. Sometimes it's by material items. It's by money. Like everybody has a different idea of what success is or what's good and what's bad, but you're always at different points in your life. And so what may be good to you now may sound like trash in a couple years, and what sounds like trash right now, you may come to appreciate later on down the road.
Exactly.
Which is what happened with me and Cuddy. But it's crazy because now I can look at those things and see them and experience it, or when somebody says something to me and I'm like, okay, at one point in my life I was there, I might have said something like that, so I can't really be mad about it. I just got to keep going with what we were saying before, with what I think will work. And then that's just the key factor there is like everybody is just, it's all different factors that experience your perspective. And so they're talking from a perspective of whatever has influenced them to that point. And it could be totally different from what's influencing you at that point in your life.
Health is wealth, man. That's the other thing I'll say on top of that. Like, dude, like the more you've been on this earth and the more shit you're seeing, like the more, like, again, like you just spoke, like, okay, now you're more, like, I'm more in tune to that too, of like giving things a second chance or something like that. But how does that happen? Like with wisdom. So that's why I like to say health is wealth, man. The longer I'm on this fucking planet, the longer that I'm going to have a chance to dominate this thing with my music or some form. Like, again, if I lose that, like you're fucked, man. You're fucked. So it's like the longer I'm here, I always tell people, like, some of my favorite DJs right now are like 40 years old, making their best stuff, selling out everywhere, and they're making this best stuff at 40 years old, man. So it's like, why are they good? Chris Lake, dude, that guy's been making music for 20 years. Like, you know how many kick drums he's listened to? Like a million kick drums. He's gonna know when a kick drum sounds better than me simply because he's been doing this shit for 20 years, man. I've been doing it for 4, whatever it was. 4, like, it's just how it is. Like, it's just how it is. So the longer you're on this earth, health is wealth, man. You're gonna get more wise, and it's gonna help you as a person. And then again, like especially with music, man. Like, you're like, for me, like the longer I'm doing this, the better my stuff's gonna be. That's how I see it. It's such a passion with me that the longer I do it, the better it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's the long-term game. That's it,
man. And people are so short-sighted, and it's crazy. I see that like with the golf, like teaching golf. Like, I'll show somebody something, and like I'll show them like how to do something, and they'll hit 2 bad shots and start looking at me with 4 eyes. Like, what the fuck did you show me how to do? I'm like, the hell, why are you looking at me like that? I showed you like what to do right now. I'm telling you, you got to work through the bad shots doing the right thing. Like, people think I'm going to show them how to do the right thing, and that means right away that's going to translate into something better. Like, it's not. Like, you have to work through the struggle of doing it the right way in order for that right way to become a habit. Like, and that's something that many people don't like to grasp, because at this world that we live in right now, everything is so instantaneous. We have instant access to like everything. Everyone sees everything, so they go online and they, in the past, like I like to say, if your dad was a freaking statue maker, you just knew how to make statues for the rest of your life, and that was it. Like,
Yep.
you know, and that was all you knew, because there was no Instagram to show you what the fuck Kylie Jenner was doing on a Saturday night, and you saw, oh, she was at this club, and there was this cool DJ there. Oh, she was at the club, and there was this cool Salt Bay guy dropping shit on a steak. Maybe I want to go do steaks. Maybe I want to go do steaks now. No one knew about that stuff in the past. But so basically what I'm saying is it's instant access. You go online, you see a good golfer, you see a good musician, and you start thinking, oh, I could go do that. But you're not seeing all the tears, blood, sweat, and tears that went behind what that person was doing before they got to that moment. You're just seeing the reward happen right in front of you. But that's what I'm saying. These people are so used to, because of these phones, man, everyone's so used to like instant gratification on shit. And it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, everybody who blows up now is an overnight success. It's like, overnight of 15, 20 years.
Yeah, dude.
You know?
Yo,
like,
for real.
And then they're like, go back and look. Yeah,
success.
You're an overnight success. You just blew up. Like, no, I've been putting in the work forever. Like, it's been a long journey. You just didn't see it. I said this on the Geo podcast, and I said, people only know, and then I corrected it. I said, people only think they know, because they don't actually know, what they see. So they're like, oh, he made it. He's there. It happened overnight. No, you didn't see the rest of the journey, so you don't know it, because you only know or think you know what you saw. You don't actually see all the work that went in over time, and all the years and all the times you ate shit and got punched in the mouth, like we said, but then guess what? Didn't quit. Kept going. And all these guys who make it, like you were saying, like Chris Lake and all this, like that are older and making it, it's just like they've been doing it forever. And I'm sure they experienced success early on, but to get to the level they're at now where everybody sees it, there was so much more work put in before that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chris, like, back to Chris, like, a perfect example of somebody, like, he is making his best stuff right now, and he has been putting out songs on major record labels for a long time, and he's just now starting to, like, close out, you know, and headline festivals. And he would tell you he's making the best stuff now. Like, he had a moment of realization himself that he was giving in too much to what record labels were telling him to do, and making music he didn't want to make just because he wanted so badly to get to that headline spot, and he knew this is what the headliners were playing right now, so I got to go and do that. Same thing, but again, like he learned that over time too. And again, like, but if you're just getting into dance music now, you just might see Chris Lake as, oh, this is this guy who's just making this fire song that just came out this year and it sounds really good, and I just saw him at this festival. He headlined it. It's great. But like, you don't know actually the whole story, and I don't even know the whole story, but I think I like to know. Because I know what I'm going through. But again, like, just back to the whole thing, like, of why I am the way I am today. It's because of like that opportunity that my parents gave me in moving to Florida. Like, I saw firsthand what people were doing, man. Like, I'm talking about, like, you want to talk about crazy stories. I'm talking about, like, if you don't, I remember, I'll never forget this. So I think it was in Guatemala. So I was in Guatemala for my sister's tennis tournament, and there was this really heated tennis match going on. And like, some of these girls from like Russia and China that are like playing tennis, man, like, they're funded by somebody in Russia and China, like, to be playing here in the United States. So like, with the thought that when they go on TV and like make money one day, they're gonna get paid back.
Yeah.
And if they don't, there's gonna be a fucking problem. So again, like real, we're talking real problems now. We're talking for real problems. Like, someone might die problems. So again, like, they're having this heated tennis match, 3 hours, grueling, banging out. After the match, a girl comes over to the girl who lost. I'm literally sitting down, a little ass kid, man. I'm on my Game Boy, like, watching this whole thing go down. Father yelling at the daughter, takes the tennis racket, cracks it over her forehead, boom, gushing blood. Paramedics come, everything. Another example of a girl, again, crazy story. I know it's hard to drop that bomb and move on to another story.
Insane.
But dude, this is real life, man.
You're like, I know it's hard to drop that bomb and keep going.
It's hard to drop that bomb and keep going. But like, again, another girl, like one of my sister's friends at the time, like, if she didn't practice good or have a day practice, like, they would literally throw her in a closet and kneeling on rice, like, for hours, like, dark closet, man. Like, this was it. Like, this was do or die, like, life type stuff. And for me, like, that just really opened my eyes. Like, at a young age, I was exposed to that, and I was just like, I know what people at a high level are doing, are like trying to like get at, and what it takes to even think about it. Like, for like, in my opinion, if you're not like thinking about something on a daily basis, like, don't even have the dream almost. Like, cause you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mind people when they tell me about like dreams, for example, because so many times in this world, you sit down with someone and they tell you, everyone's drunk off their ass. Oh, I'm about to make an app. or I'm about to go do this. I'm about to go do that. I'm like,
every day.
I'm like, dude, like, okay, I'm all about it. I'm the biggest dreamer in the goddamn world. Like, don't get me wrong. But there's one thing, when I wake up in the morning and I'm sober, I'm actually going after that dream still. Yeah. And that's like, what people don't do a lot of times in this world, and like that's what like frustrates me sometimes with some people. I'm like, it's don't just talk out your fucking culo, man. Like if you're trying to do something and like talking to me about a dream, like I know it actually goes on into doing that, and no dream is too absurd with me if I know you as a person and I know you're putting in those hours and actually think about it on a daily basis. So.
Yeah, everybody wants it, but they don't want to put in the work to get to it.
And they don't know because they haven't seen it either. Like
that's true. That was a good point. Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah.
What you were just saying about the whole tennis thing, like you saw that. That's true. And then what you just said, you're like, not everybody has seen that.
No, they haven't. And that's, and like, again, like I had this, again, example with one of my golf students that come to me and say, Brant, like I did what you did. I did what you asked me. I practiced 2 times this weekend. I hit 200 balls. I'm like, 200 balls. Like I was like, don't even talk to me about a sad story. 200 balls, man. I'm like get lost. But like this person genuinely thought that 200 balls was like
so true,
was sufficient enough. And I'm sitting there like, dude, absolutely not. I would get dropped off at 10 a.m. and picked up at 7 p.m. from the golf course. Like I'm playing 36 holes in one day and getting on the range. You're nowhere near. Don't even talk to me. Like don't even talk to me about that. So again, like. Some people are just genuinely clueless, and like and then I always have to remind myself like this person hasn't seen what I've seen and know what it's like. So not saying that you need to go through what I need to do, what I did in order to like do something, but just open your eyes, like watch podcasts or like we're doing here of people who are super successful, and I'm sure you're gonna see them talk about similar things, man. Like because it's infectious, like the same way it is with my music. Like if you talk to LeBron James about basketball on a podcast, it's gonna go ridiculous. Like he's gonna be dropping absolute gems on your head, like 100%. So
yeah, here we are. Over an hour later, I think, and it literally started. The first thing we talked about was the song that you just dropped, and this whole conversation just stemmed from that.
Yeah.
When you touch upon somebody's passion and you really hit it, and you could go. I mean, you see, like we just talked about this, no problem for an hour and 10 minutes. And again, we related it to a lot of different things as well. It wasn't just music, but it's so true.
100%. Now, honestly, I want to talk a little bit more about like Reds in that 1 year, man, too, because like
we should absolutely.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that too, because like for me, man, that was such a crazy year, and like honestly, I think about that all the time, like how much I even tell my mom, and my mom even knows you, man, on a first name basis, because like you helped so many people that year, like including myself, man, because. Even when I was making music, like I was going through like everybody did at the same time, like not really dark time, but like a weird time in my life. Like sure, I was making music and all that stuff, but like everybody wanted to do something and like go out here at Rutgers and like have their end of their college like mean something, and you really were the person for that. So I just wanted to say that too, like. Man, like
appreciate it.
Like you really helped out a lot of people mentally. Like I'm sure, like because I mean, you helped me out, and I know a lot of my friends out mentally, like having something to do. Because I remember like my junior year here, and all of my friends, like I said, were in school, and they were all graduating. So, I was looking forward to those last couple of months I had with them my junior year, because I knew I was having another year here without anybody really. I had a couple of my day ones, like like Pete, Jake, Sam, all those kids were still coming back, but all my frat kids were all graduating. And yeah, so basically, like when the COVID hit, man, like it stripped everything out of everybody and out of everybody. So that's why so many people, man, like they'll never forget what you did that year, for real.
No, I appreciate it. That was an unbelievable year, and I think going through when they shut everything down, and just kind of in my head, like going through what I, like just sitting there every day. I remember distinctly turning off the lights and walking out of this place in March of 2020, and just being like, holy shit, like. I don't know what's going to happen. And there's a lot of worse things that have happened to people in life, but this was kind of out of everybody's control, and what was going on, it just didn't all add
business,
up.
Like it was huge.
Yeah,
it was like literally a life or death.
Yeah, it's our family business that's been going on forever, and of course we have the other two, but I just remember going through that. So then I get back in the fall, and a lot of people people only see what they see and think they know what they see, but the whole reason for that, and Corey and I did actually a 30 for 30 style interview right here in front of the logo, and it hasn't been released. I have so much good footage, but in that I say my least favorite part of the job and my favorite part of the job, and it's almost like a paradox because they conflict, but my least favorite part of the job is the fact that you only have so much time with the people that are here to make memories, because we're specifically here, it's at a college town. Like you have 2 years of people, they turn 21, sometimes their junior year, and then your junior and senior year, and then they're gone, and it's a whole new batch of people.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of the job literally is making those memories along the way while they're here. It's like such a conflicting thing, but isn't that crazy? My least favorite part of the job is the fact that you only have so much time to make the memories while people are here. But my favorite part of the job is making those memories while they're here along the way. It's insane. It's such a crazy, but the reason I did everything I did, and I think this is important for everybody to know, is everybody's talking about like, oh, it's your business, and of course you got to do what you got to do to survive. And the reason I pushed the limits and I pushed the boundaries and made sure that everybody was able to get in here and manage it the best I could within the realm of what they were pushing is because I realized that all the kids, you guys, like all the kids that were here deserved to have that time together to make those memories.
No, 100%.
And no one, I mean, I wouldn't say no one in the world, but like everybody in the world was shut down and just listening to what was being told and like saying they should do this and they were just letting it fly. And I was like, no. I was like, this shit isn't right. I was like, I know what justice is right now. I know what the fuck is right. No, and these people deserve to have this time together to make those memories. They need a place where they could come together because there was nowhere you could go at that time to come together and experience life and make memories and be together. And if it wasn't such a good group of people, I might have second guessed myself, but it was such a good group of people. And I truly believe that it was destiny that I was supposed to be here for that year to stay open, to push the limits and not listen to, because listen, my grandfather, the original Red, the one thing, my favorite fucking thing about him was that he never let anybody stick a fucking finger in his face and tell him what the fuck to do. And I wasn't about to sit here and let somebody fucking do that to me. No fucking way. Because I tell you what, that Monday night when you boys came in here, it was 6 of you and it was just me. That was the night I truly became Red. And I said, I ain't never looking fucking back. And my grandpa would never let somebody come in here, stick a finger in his fucking face, tell him what the fuck to do. And a lot of people just laid down, let motherfuckers do that. I wasn't gonna fucking do that. Sincerely yours, Red, baby. The last living. That's all fucking day.
No. Literally, I'm about to run through a brick wall right now, man. Like I'm
fucking fired up.
I'm about to run through a brick wall after that.
But just saying that and the appreciation, but I really do. I really appreciate you saying that and telling me that you guys appreciate that. And it's something that doesn't need to be said because I do really feel it from you guys, and I truly appreciate you saying that, though.
No. I have to say that because we were talking about that all the time. Like, because before we obviously were like really good friends with you, we were all saying like this guy is out of his mind, but we love him for this because like this literally saved us. Like, dude, like we were sitting. I remember we just moved into '93, and we were like, what the hell are we gonna do this year? I mean, I had my music, so I was like, guess I'm just gonna become a freaking groundhog and just stay in there until COVID, and then just pop back up out. But like again, like you started doing this, man, and it was more than a business decision. Like this shit was just like you said, like morally fucking correct, like so many. It was just ridiculous what was going on, but we all really appreciate that. I'm sure I speak for everybody that was there that year, man. Like we all, man. Well, we'll never forget that. No. I'll never forget that because it was something I know that my dad would do if he was in your shoes too, man. Like just making the right call and doing something. And again, you had so many, like people don't even know, man. You had cops coming in here all the fucking time doing shit like that. Yep. But again, so I mean that year was so special to me and introduced me to you too, man. So thank you for that. And then the following year too, I started DJing here. That was so much fun, man. I love. Thank you for that opportunity too. Before I was anybody, before I had any songs or all that stuff, man, you were believing in me and had me in here too. So I'll never forget that.
The whole year we were talking about that. I was like, the minute we can do that, like the minute it actually is like we can let it fly, you're going to be there. And then that year, they finally opened up after everything was said and done. Like before everybody had truly left this area, they opened up 100% capacity and everything was good to go. And you played. And it was unbelievable.
Fire. Some of the best nights here at the nights, man, I'll tell you, some of the videos from the nights that I DJ'd here were so electric. That homecoming last year, man. Again, I don't like talking about shit like that because, again, my brain's always on to, the next big thing. Like, I'm thinking Mirage, man. Like, I'm trying to be at Brooklyn. But, like, that moment, like that's what I do it for, man. Like that's what I do it for. Like just seeing other people dancing. Like I was playing my own songs at that point then too, and I was with my best friend Mosin too. Like and he was playing his songs and seeing people dance to it like that, and everybody there like basically doing what should have been happening that senior year at Reds that one day there. And like that was such a special moment. That was such a special moment for me, man. For real. Like it felt really like unique. It felt really unique, like having everybody there, and it felt like a fucking concert, man. You had people fucking like crowd surfing.
My uncle, oh
Yeah,
my God.
like-
my
like-
uncle goes, we looked on the camera, and he goes, it looked like a concert in there.
No, it
And
literally looked
yeah.
like a concert in there. So I'm saying, like, I don't like thinking about that because college is college, man. Like, if you're a DJ and you're trying to do this, put your fucking money and your balls to this music shit and produce, and then start worrying about DJing and doing all that stuff later. Like, that's my take on that stuff, because that's where the money's at. And, like, I want people to buy tickets to come see me one day. But again, like, I thought, like, this was ridiculous. Like, this was the first moment I really had where I was like, oh my God, like, you know, like, dude, this is crazy. This feels like I'm at a concert right now. Like, I'm playing a concert. And again, just little things like that too, man. Like, those keep me going, man. Like, moments like that. It's like, because now I'm always the same way you go to like your first festival, like you go to your first festival, you'll always try to recapture that feeling. Like, whenever I make a song, like, I always try to imagine, like, how would I feel right now when I was at that festival for the first time, like, making the song. And I use that moment here at Reds, like, how would this song slap right now if I was DJ and I just let this one go? Like how would this slap in there? And how would I feel in that moment? Would it have hit, or would it have fell flat? Like, or, you know, because it's not going to fall flat because everybody in here is vibing, but, like, you know, I can kind of tell when something's not right. Like, as a DJ, like, you can tell immediately the vibes aren't right there. Let's start looking for the next one immediately.
Yeah.
So again, that was just a big moment.
So going back to this night that we just talked about, clip it in right here.
We're talking homecoming.
Homecoming 2021.
Yeah.
So for the class of 2021. That, and Corey was here, who's behind the scenes right now that just did it. He was, I knew that night was going to be so special. And so I was like, Corey, I really want you to come and film that day. If you're available, come through. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, the nighttime is really when everyone's going to be here. During the day, it'll be busy, but I know for a fact that the core squad of people that were here throughout the COVID year are going to be here for the night. And so what this night meant to me, and this was, I would just want to say this was my favorite night in history, because I remember so distinctly being at the bar, and at that time I was back to bartending. The year before I couldn't. And I was bartending, and I knew that your whole squad was going to be here, obviously the boys. We had been talking about for a while, and you were DJing. That night was on the calendar for you to DJ way before that semester even started. Like, yo, homecoming next year, you're in. It was you and Cisneros, because, again, it says who the song has just been dropped with. Yeah. And it was supposed to be him Friday, you Saturday. He couldn't do Friday. He had a show in New York. But you were locked in for Saturday for a long time because we knew that was going to be the night. Yeah. And so I remember so vividly, like, being at the bar that night and everybody hitting me up from the year before. And it was crazy for me to see, because everybody was coming in with their whole squad that they had been coming in with the year before. And the year before, everybody was with their squad, and we all came together to be one full squad at Reds. So that night, everyone's coming in with their squad, and at one point throughout the night, I saw every single squad that had been coming in here the previous year. Yeah. And it was cool to see how crazy packed it was in here, like how full it was, and still being able to just see all those squads. Like, and it was so cool because they would come up, say what's up to me at the bar, say hello, get their round of drinks, and then they disappear into the crowd. And it was almost like at that point I knew that everything that I had been working for, you know, came together in that moment, and it was never going to be the same as it was in that 2020, 2021 year. Like, that solidified it for me. That night in history, when you played and this place was packed and it was everything it was supposed to be the year before, it was a full circle moment. And it was after that, and I was like, tonight was the night. Like, that was it. And I just remember thinking back on that, and I'm so happy Corey came to capture the energy. And we have the video. Like, if you go to the Reds New Brunswick page, the video's there that he filmed, I edited, and I have it was so crazy, the music that we were able to put together to it. Shout out to Max. He had a mix of Tile Cruz and then Million Voices. Yeah. And Million Voices was like our anthem. No, and it I remember
really required me to play that song.
Yeah, I was like, yo, that's the anthem, has to be played now. Yeah. But I just remember, like, sitting down for, like, oh man, like 2 weeks trying to cut that video perfect and make sure it captured every bit of energy that we put into that whole year, because that video right there really encompasses the energy that we all, not just myself, like I was the host, but you guys put into that year before and turned Reds into what it was. And the only reason that night was possible, and by the way, that night was the highest day in sales in Reds history of all three. Like, it here in New Brunswick, like, we set the record, and that was just, it's an accomplishment in itself, but it was just a result of everything that we put into this place. And it wasn't just me, it was you guys too. So to be able to experience that kind of night, you know, with that, Oh, it was just unreal for me, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it as long as I live.
I mean, I told you, man. If there's core memories for me too, like as in my life, that's a core memory for me too, man. Like I'm always gonna remember. Like I was joking, we always joked about that together. Like, okay, yeah, look, you gotta get a picture together one day because one day, man, when I'm playing something big, we're gonna have that in here. Well, we got that video from that night. Like, dude, like I'm always gonna remember that. Like, I'm sure one day, man, when I'm a big ass DJ, I'm gonna be coming in here and wanting to throw a show for everyone here at Rutgers and having it right here. Like that's 100% what I would love to do because that's a core memory for me, man. Like that was a big moment. So, yeah, that was something I'm always going to look back on. Like that day was really, really special to me. That and like one other party we had, which was the time when I realized I wanted to like really go like crazy with DJing. Even was like we had this paint party one time, and that was like I remember I played. Again, I don't play stuff like this anymore. It's so funny. But I was like playing like the Louis the Child song. I was playing like Better Not. And I remember like we started off like with this party, same kind of concept here, like with you with Reds. Like, you know, start off with just one squad of people, you know, the 93 boys here and me. And then before you know it, it grows into this whole freaking thing of like an army of people. It was the same thing. Like we were having this paint party. We do it last minute, didn't even know if it was going to be good or not. And so basically I'm sitting there like, you know, DJing with my one of my good friends, Max. And we're DJing to nobody right now. Like there's like 2 people in this place, like DJing to absolutely nobody. And before you know it, like it's filling out. I'm having fun. I'm getting in my zone, like DJing. It's like one of my first times really doing it. I remember I played Better Not, and I looked up, and this freaking place was packed, and they were all like singing. And I was like, oh my God, like this is a crazy moment. Like this was the first time I felt adrenaline rush since I was on like a big moment, like on a golf tee box. I was like, this is great. Like this is you know, one of the reasons that made me like. That's why I love that song again, like core memory. That's a core song for me too, even though I don't listen to Louis the Child like that as much anymore. Like that song for me though by them is like a core song for me mentally. Like Notorious, like I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast by Mala, like another core song. So that homecoming day, core memory for me. That paint party, core memory for me as a DJ. Again, I know it sounds super corny, like, you know, DJing some frat thing, but everything has to start there from the beginning, man. And like for me, like I'm never gonna forget that, like, because that's what made me, you know, have the mindset that I have today.
Yeah, that's the power I think of music in particular. Like I know we talked about how it relates to a lot of different stuff in life. You know, the things that we've said relate to a lot of different aspects of life, but the power of music to bring you back to a specific memory, a specific feeling you had. Like Terrence talks about that all the time, and I think this is why he can sit there for 14 hours in his house or in his apartment all day and just work on it. He tells me that all the time. He's like, music is the only thing that really can, you know, lights my soul on fire, that brings me to a point of memory. It's the only thing that can do that for everybody. That's what he truly believes. And I was like, yeah, right. I see that. And for me, like just going back to the Million Voices thing, the fact that I was able to put that mix together on that video, because every time I hear Million Voices,
think about that
it brings me back to that entire year, which again, 100% I feel that I was supposed to be here for. If anything, if it doesn't continue on, like
that year,
like that year,
even owned in this
it 100% is bringing me back to that year where I truly felt like my purpose was to be here for that. Like my purpose was to be here in that particular time period, was to be right here. There was no other place I should have been, because we were able to put together what we put together and have that year and meet the people we met. There's no way you could write it up in history any better than that. And so I really, truly feel like I was supposed to be here for that, just to allow that to happen.
I mean, dude, first of all, I mean, again, I hate to say it again, but like, thank you so much for that, because thank you for feeling that way, because we all greatly appreciate what you did that year. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the best feelings in the world, dude. When you find that feeling of meaning in your life.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you,
no better feeling.
Like that's my trump card over anybody, over anything that I have in life. It's like, you know, like you could have all this money, all this stuff in the world, but it's like I know when I go home at night, like what I want to do with my life and what I'm super passionate about and want to go forward with. And I honestly pray and hope that other people like have that moment for themselves too, because like when you do, like life starts making sense. You start like tuning out all the other excess stuff that goes on in your life. You know, You know, because like the whole social construct, oh, I need a freaking girlfriend, guy for, you know, boyfriend, all this stuff. Like that stuff goes all out the window a little bit. Like when you kind of get that like feeling of like really something you love in life, because like that's my girlfriend, man. Like music, that's my bitch. Like that's my bitch, like that's my girl. Like like that's my girl. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't need to worry about like other things as much, because that's like that's my life, and I go to bed happy at night. So it's like the same, like I never can go to bed, like I try, even though there's moments, man, I keep talking about this like it's all peaches and cream and fairy tales. It's not. Like there's moments I'm sitting there like, shit, I suck, like I mentioned, and and you know, like, you know, that anxiety factor, I haven't had anything put out yet and I'm like not reaping the benefits. But again, I always, the smart piece of my brain, because it's in there somewhere, believe it or not, smart piece of my brain, man, it's hey man, all musicians can be shot at times. So but the smart piece of my brain tells myself, like, you know what, man, like you have something that you love so much, and like you wake up in the morning, you know you're gonna get right back on the horse. So like, what does it matter what you're going through right now? So
man, that's so important.
It's so important. And again, like at the time, you know, for so many people, and like even myself, because like the music hadn't, like I said, at the beginning of '93, like completely overtaken my life at the point it is now. So like, you know, going out and like, you know, seeing your friends and having that college experience was something so fucking huge to me and so huge to everybody. So like, you know, like that helped, like what you did helped bring purpose back to those college years that so many people had. Again, not saying that, you know, our lives relied on going out, but like, you know,
but it wasn't for people who are listening. It wasn't about going out. It's again, going back to the time thing
something
you just
to
said.
Do, man.
Yeah, like,
anything.
Like that time, again, going back to my least favorite and favorite thing, it's the time was running out, and time is something you cannot get back. All the material items, all the money, everybody talks about that. Like I would never define success as having all those things, because you know, time is something you'll never get back, and the memories you're making along the way, you may never get a chance to make those memories again. And just going back to that year, like my whole life, I just wanted to be like my grandpa. He was my hero, and I just wanted to be Red. And that year was the year I got to experience living out like almost that dream. And you know, after that I was like, damn, like people wait their whole lives to experience success and get it, and whatever their version of it is. And it's like that year was, to me, everything I ever wanted to be, everything I ever wanted to do. I did it, and I did it the way I wanted to do it. And that, for me, I can just move on. Like I'm so at peace with how I did everything, and just what went on.
A priceless feeling.
It's priceless.
It's a priceless feeling. Like I'm
priceless.
I'm telling you, man. Like you gotta always cherish that. And then again, like I just hope other people. I mean, if you're watching this, man, like I hope other people find that thing for them as well too. That keeps their clock ticking, because like when you do, like, life doesn't seem so crazy, life doesn't seem so like a crazy thing anymore, even though it is really crazy life. Like, you know, you find meaning in it, and it doesn't feel as unhinged as it can feel, because life can feel really unhinged at times.
It's hard.
And to me, man, like, again, whether it's, you know, playing video games nonstop, or whether it's, you know, doing a podcast, or whether it's, you know, graphic design, or owning and managing a bar, or you know, working, you know, being the best goddamn pizzeria in the tri-state area, whatever the hell it is that you're doing. Like, if that's like what you love, do it to the best that you can, man. Like do it to the absolute best that you can, and completely seize that, and be grateful that you have that moment. Like again, like I said, even if it is freaking making pizzas, like if you really love what you're doing, and you love that, man, like good for you, because I'm telling you, you have something on other people, because a lot of people don't have that, and it gives you something like over other people and separates you from the rest, in my opinion.
I hope that everyone in their life experiences that at one point.
Yeah.
Because for real, like that, when you experience it, it's just like it sets you free almost. Like
no, it has meaning. It has meaning. Like I just, that's the only way I can sum it up is like I know my life has meaning. Whether my dreams one day, you know, fulfilled to the absolute fullest, or whether I fall short of wherever that dream was, like I still know that, you know, it's not something. And again, like back to the whole music thing, like one more time here, you know, like worrying about like putting songs out and stuff like that. Like I don't really worried about that in the beginning, because I was just so passionate about it that like it didn't matter. Like I just made music for me to make music, because I was telling Corey over there, like I'm the only one that can make music at a fast enough pace to supply my demand and my own need for new music. So like for me, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I kind of mean by that? Like, I'm waiting for my new favorite artist to put out a song. Like, he can't make that fast enough. Like, only I can make that fast enough. Like the songs and stuff that I want to hear. So, what I'm getting at, man, it's just what I'm getting at is that, like, you know, I love what it is that I'm doing so much that I wasn't worried about putting some music out yet, because I'm not thinking about it as trying to make money off of it. Like, where some people like will think about being an actor or thinking about, you know, making that app, and they're just, you know, wanting to make the app right away or wanting to make the song right away and go be that DJ or whatever. Whereas me, it was like, it's a passion project, and that's how I approached it for so long. And then eventually it comes to a point of stupidity where it's like, okay, I'm so good at what I'm doing now that I should be, you know, reaping some benefits from it. But you have to wait to that point. I truly believe it has to be something that, you know, you'll know when the time's right.
100%. 100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. It ain't about the end result.
Yeah, and again, the end result, like, it will come. Like, it will come. Like, everyone rushes towards it right in the beginning. But, like,
never rush. You forget things. My number one rule of life.
Yeah, like, it will come. Like, again, if you truly love whatever it is you do, I'm a firm believer of that, and you seek after it nonstop every day, like, putting in time with it, whether it's watching a 30-minute YouTube tutorial on something, you know, like, you know, for example, I just asked Corey, like, how did you guys learn how to do so, like, editing and stuff on podcasts? Well, I thought to myself, well, I could do the same way I could do it on music. I would just go on YouTube and look at it and start to research it. And then, you know, day by day, like, one 30-minute tutorial, another 30-minute tutorial, another one. Before you know it, I'm spending 3 hours a day, and then I start doing the podcast or I start doing the music. That's how it works, again. But so many people are looking at it as, like, the end goal and, like, where they need to be, and not looking at it enough as just something fun and something that they love that they're doing. And they're just trying to reap the benefits, like, so quick. And it's just not how it works.
Just not how it works.
Not how it works, man.
Damn. What a fucking podcast.
Yeah, that was
unfucking real.
A lot of gems dropped, man, for you guys.
Like, I'm happy there at the end. Like, we really did drop a lot on music, but I'm really happy that you brought that all up at the end about Reds, because it was cool to just going through the emotions, talking about it right now. I still feel the same way, and it just
I do too, man. Awesome, like, that's why I brought it up. Like, I feel the same way. Like, I remember exactly where I was when we had this conversation of what the fuck we were gonna do that year. Yep. We were right on the 93 porch. It was me, Pete, and Jake, because, like, we were the ones who had been at Rutgers, because Sam and Matt were, like, new transfers. They all of us lived at 93. They were, like, new transfers. They hadn't experienced it really yet. Like, we knew, like, what Rutgers was and, like, what we were going to be doing. We were just sitting out there like, dude, like, this is ridiculous. We're just looking at Queens. It's completely dead. You can literally see dust bunnies flying across New Brunswick. Yeah. What are we going to do, man? And then we remembered, like, let's go to, like, I think it was Benji who maybe even said it first. And then we remembered last year, like, you know what, let's go to Reds. Like, he's just opening up again here this year. Like, you know, let's go check this place out. And then again, like, it just turned into, we watching Full Send in here. Literally, you turned the TVs on, like, made this place homey as fuck right off the rip. Like, we were like,
just us.
Yeah, it's made this place homey as fuck, man. And then, like, we were like, all right, we're going to start coming here. Like, this guy's about it. Like, we had that whole discussion about how what was going on in the world was fucked up. And you know, before you know it, like, you know, everyone starts coming here. But again, like, it was just about what that meant to us, like, making something out of college, dude. Because, like, without you, like, and I'm sure everyone's the same way, we'd have just remembered college as, like, a freaking something that was a rug pull, like, just something ripped right from under us. Like, just that's how we remembered it before you came. So. Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for real. I appreciate it for real. I speak for everybody with that.
No, it's truly, like I said, I believe, you know, in anything in life, you got to do what you believe is right. And I truly believe that what I was doing was right. And so I wasn't worried about any of the outside things that were going on. I was just worried about doing exactly what I felt was the right thing to do. And it worked out so heavily in my favor, just the fact that I got to have all you guys as close friends now. And I know for a fact, I said this on a previous podcast, that the people I met that year, the relationships we made, like, those are the people that I'm going to be riding with for the rest of the time.
100%.
And I couldn't be happier that that's the truth.
And I told you, man, we're going to be riding forever, because at a couple years, man, hopefully, you know, God willing, this music shit works out. We're gonna buy a fucking bar down the shore and we're gonna fucking do this shit all over again.
All
man.
day.
We're gonna do this shit all
Like
over
we
again.
said
You
at the
heard?
beginning, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We're getting that shore bar, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Unbelievable. What an unbelievable. Yo, thank you for coming on, bro. Unbelievable
Thank you for having
episode.
me, man. For real, I love what you're doing here. Although you know how I am with creatives and just stuff like this, man. Like I saw what you were doing here. I'm like, this is legit. And I know if anyone's gonna do this fucking thing right, it's gonna be you.
Let's
So I was
fucking
like,
go.
Man, I have to be in on this. If anyone's doing it right, it's gonna be Red. So good shit, man. Good shit.
All
Good
fucking time.
Shit. Good shit.
We out. Let's go.